Hello everybody, it's List here, and I'm going to be making a follow-up video to my state on World of Tanks console and the changes that they've made recently. And this is after playing the game for a bit and actually, getting used to some of the changes. I'm going to give you my full opinion now, where before it was kind of my initial thought. I released it I think it was the day after the update came out, and I'd like to be a bit more clear with some of the things that I had issues with and how I feel about them now. Okay, so starting off, I did talk to some friends about this, and just to get their opinions on stuff. It was kind of mixed, so I'm going to try and say what the overall opinion is. And this is going to be on the Matchmaker. So the Matchmaker, the way they've done it, it's skill based, and when it first came out, it was really, really bad, and it absolutely shafted the good players, the 65% plus players. But however, they did update it, and it's not as bad as it was. Overall, maybe it's a little bit more balanced to the overall player base, because when you think about a 70% win rate player or something against a 50% win rate player, that is a humongous difference. That's almost 20%. And there are people who are that. And I think that now that it's skill based, it is maybe a little bit more balanced. For me, I don't really like it because it's giving me worse teammates. It's making it a lot harder for me to win, or sometimes impossible to win. But overall, it may be better for some of the players, if you can get what I'm saying. It's not the absolute worst. It was really bad when it first came in because it kind of just shafted anybody that was even half decent and just like screwed them over, even if you were above 50%. But it's not absolutely terrible right now. I personally don't really like it that much, but it's not the worst. So that's my opinion on that. Next up is the camo. I talked about nothing having camo anymore, right? And the concealment circle being absolutely humongous. So basically, now that I've played and learned, you basically can't rely on that concealment circle anymore. It's pretty much useless. So it does take a bit more knowledge. You're still going to have good camo, and in some places you'll have even better camo than you did before, because of the way equipment changes and skill changes are. And you really just need to relearn it is what more of it is, because you need to have a bit more map knowledge and everything. As a light tank, you can't just active scout like you were before. Active scouting is kind of dead. I mean, you can do it in some tanks, but it's pretty much dead, I'd say. It's all about passive scouting now, so you got to learn how to use bushes, which is hard, and I can get the frustration, because even for me, relearning it, I'm playing fine with light tanks now, but it was a little bit of an adaptation I had to do, and you just gotta learn different ways to play it, I guess is the way. Because I'm gonna have some clips on here, and you'll see me firing from like less than 100 meters in a tank destroyer, shooting through bushes with the flash hider equipment piece, and I'm just not spotted. Like, it's absolutely crazy. So there's definitely some things that were nerfed about the camo, like the moving camos and stuff. You got to run that equipment slot, and even so, it's not super great to always run it. It's just a bit different, so you just got to change it up. I wouldn't say the camo is necessarily nerfed. I mean, it is nerfed, but it's somewhat in a good way. It actually takes skill to use it now. I'm starting to like it. I'm not a super huge fan, but I think I just need to play even more. And like for tank destroyers, I really like it because I can just be like unspottable sometimes. If you can get some great equipment on a SCRV 103B or any of the Swedish tank destroyers, because you're not going to be moving when you're in those, so you can put on camo net and binos and flash hider. You're just like unspottable basically. It's absolutely crazy how close people can get. But the scouting and stuff with like tank destroyers and stuff doesn't really, like active scouting with the UDIS 03 or something, that doesn't really work anymore, which is maybe a good thing because it basically gave you another light tank on the team before, and that was a disadvantage. Say that your team has a Ferdinand and the opposite team gets a UDIS 03 and there's no light tank and you're on Prokhorovka, what team do you think is going to win? If the UDIS plays correctly, that team will win because he can basically turn into a light tank because of his moving camo and everything. It doesn't work so much like that now, which is a good thing, I would say. I haven't played all the different tanks. I've mostly just been playing light tanks, and the TDs I've played were pretty slow TDs. But overall, I do think there was some good changes about that. It does take a bit more skill to use now. Now, the camo is definitely less, and you don't have as good of camo. So there's no doubt about that. That is a true statement. But in certain situations, you can have more camo than before in certain situations, if that makes sense. Overall, you have less camo, but with some of the equipment, when you're sitting still and stuff, you will have more camo than you ever did before. Something I must add though is this did make the game more difficult to become good at. So there is that aspect. If you are just a casual player, this is going to take a bit more to understand now because it's not as easy, in terms of like the camo and view range and stuff. It's a bit more hard because it's not just that basic little circle and you're like, oh, I have that much, I can move that close to the person before I'm spotted. No, that doesn't really work anymore. And yeah, that does change things a little bit for the average player. For a good player, they can adapt to that quick. But if you are a casual or average player or below average player, it is going to be a bit harder to adapt to, and you will have to get used to that. Also, I will be making a video on how to play with the new camo nerfs, and not necessarily nerfs, but how camo works now, because it's a bit different and interesting now. I think I fully understand it now, so I'll be making a video on that to help you guys out, and maybe also with the view range, how that is working now. Regarding the accuracy, I basically don't even notice a difference. They could have left it and it would have been fine, or they could have did this. I don't really think it's that big of a difference. It's on some tanks, it's a big difference, but for most of the tanks, you're not going to really notice it. You might miss like 1 or 2 extra shots per game. It's not super crazy. Personally, I didn't think it was needed that much. The DPM was more of an issue. The accuracy, I didn't mind so much. But overall, I'd say I do think a lot of people have been enjoying it, that they're not getting snapshotted. But like I said, I do think it should have either been not nerfed at all or nerfed more, because it doesn't really feel like it. It's just like people are still snapshotting you across the map in their TDs with a huge bloom and stuff. So I don't think it really fixed that. I think it should have either been nerfed more or just not nerfed at all. But it's in a decent spot right now, so I'm not going to complain about that. And regarding the DPM, that was a good nerf, I think, because games are taking longer now. Cold War, especially, which I've been playing a little bit more. I've never been a fan of Cold War. However, it's a bit more fun right now because the games aren't so fast and it's not such of a YOLO fest, because 2 tanks can just rush you, out DPM you, and you're dead. It's not so much of that now, and they're missing a little bit more because of the accuracy. But yeah, DPM nerfs were really good, and I do think that was a good thing by Wargaming. Another thing with this update that they added, which I didn't include in the last video, was the map border with the red line. I absolutely hate that. I don't know anybody that was asking for that. Like, I never had a problem knowing where the border was because I have a map, So I hope they add like a switch to toggle that on and off, because maybe some people want it, and that's cool. Or another thing I was thinking is maybe to potentially change the color. That would be very cool, because I don't like the red. It kind of hurts my eyes. And every time I'm trying to take screenshots for videos now, if I'm trying to get a screenshot near the border, it's got that red thing in the background, which I really, really hate, and I'm hoping they at least turn it as a toggle or something. So, however, I do think it was a good update. Now that I've played a lot more over the 2-ish weeks since I think it came out about 2 weeks ago, and I do think it was an overall good update. I just wanted to make this video because some of my opinions did change. However, on the Matchmaker, I still don't really like it because I'm a 65% plus player. It kind of makes me win less, which I'm not a fan of. But if it is to improve maybe the overall game, then maybe it is for the best. If it improves for most players, it's just some of the tough players, or the good players, gotta just tough it out, I guess. But I kind of wish that it was just random, because I feel like you had a little bit more interesting games when it was random, because you weren't always guaranteed how the lineup was going to be. Like, you couldn't always assume that the other team was going to have a good player or something. I just kind of liked the variety before. But yeah. in my last video I did talk about it seemed like there were a lot of bad players that came out of like wherever after this update. We've been seeing a lot, I feel like. But my friend Crucial did make a good point that it was most likely just people are trying out new builds and new equipment and getting used to everything now. So the 52% players are playing more like maybe 49% players, or something like that. Because I don't think that they've gotten worse. It's just people have needing to adapt to the new changes and they're trying new stuff. And it's not that they're actually worse. And yeah, that's going to be the updated video for this 2 weeks after. This is just what I'm feeling like now. This will be my final opinion for now until if something else changes. Because I think I've tried everything out now, and this is how I feel about everything so far. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.